Hi, everybody, and welcome to my first ever webinar from Passion from Pain for my platform, Passion from Pain, and my brand new course, Finding Strength After Toxicity. I'm so proud that I have this done and complete, and I'm so ready to present this to you and to bring this live and to show you exactly what I've put into this course and to bring some real value to anybody who has suffered a toxic relationship in the past, who has fallen victim to manipulation, mental abuse, and you're looking to find yourself again. What does that look like? Right? I know that when we're in those situations, there's so much going on. There's so much bullshit going on in our worlds, in our lives, in our minds, and then just the constant guessing of what their next step is going to be and trying to outmaneuver them and just playing the game is purely exhausting. And I get it. I 100% get it. And I understand how tiring that can be. And that's what this course is about. It's about giving you the roadmap to getting back to yourself after leaving a situation or finding out who the hell that person is to begin with, because maybe you didn't even know who you were to begin with, which, we'll learn and we'll discover is one of the reasons why we end up falling for toxic situations to begin with, is because we don't understand who we are, what we want, what our boundaries are, right? We don't understand that. And so it makes it very easy for us to fall for these situations that aren't that great for us, that are toxic to us, that are abusive to us. And we don't want that. We don't need that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get into some of the material of the course. I want to give you guys a great idea, leave with some great information that you can apply to your own healing journey, but also, consider going deeper and joining the program and really honing in on that healing journey and really pulling out of you, your passions and your purpose and really solidifying that healing as you go forward. Okay. And a little about me. As you all know, my name is Amy Pease, and I am a survivor of manipulation and toxic abuse from my own adopted family. I was adopted at a very young age. The adoption started when I was an infant. It was finalized by the time I was 5. And I was very grateful for being adopted by them. Do not get me wrong, because my biological mother was very neglectful. In fact, it almost killed me as an infant. And so it needed to be done. And I appreciate everything that my family had done for me, for sure. But it doesn't excuse the things that were done. And it took me a long time to come to grips with that. It took me a long time to get over that myself. I thought that I owed them my life, essentially. And I was essentially raised that I did, family is, blood is thicker than water, but, we got to choose you and, we love you. Most people didn't get to choose their kids, but we got to choose you. So you're even more special than most kids. And so I was raised with those kind of thoughts ingrained into my brain, but at the same time, the actions and the growing up and the raising, and then even into my early adulthood, the actions were very different from the words that were coming from everybody. And so it was almost like they were trying to convince me that I owed them. They were owed for being in my life, right? I owed them the world because they came into my life and they decided to be my family. Okay. I later learned through a lot of hard work and a lot of hard times that I didn't need them. And it was when I got to that point and I was looking at completely leaving the only family I had ever known. So having zero family, zero support, doing this 100,000,000,000% on my own without them. without anybody, without being able to pick up the phone and say, Mom, I need your help. Brother, I need you. Dad, and that was difficult, especially at the time I was a single mother of an adult of a recently diagnosed autistic child. And so they were all that I had. But what it ultimately came down to was I could not allow the things that were happening to me happen to my son as well. And I felt a responsibility to remove him from the toxicity and from the abuse, because I saw where his life was headed, and he was headed down a road of complete with a complete inability to do anything for himself as an autistic kid. And I know I knew that there was a lot of things that he could do on his own, but he wasn't allowed to do on his own, if that kind of makes any sense. And we'll kind of get more into my stories as we go along, but we're not here for me, we're not here for my stories. I just want you to understand that I have been there, and I have faced these tough decisions, and I have been through the depression. I have been through the aftermath of leaving a toxic situation, and I have built myself back up from the ground up with zero help. Okay. And so what I have done is I have taken the last 20 years and I have researched and I have studied. I had to study, I had to learn everything that I could about manipulation, mental abuse, and toxicity. It was part of what I needed to go through to process and heal myself. But I went down the road of studying, dark psychology, narcissism, psychopaths, sociopaths. Who are these people? Why do they do what they do? What makes them tick? Okay. I had to study ancient warfare strategies, oddly enough, but it tied in beautifully. Looking into some of the old works of Sun Tzu and Machiavelli and Musashi, they have some wonderful writings that really hone in on the tactics and the skills related to manipulation and how to manipulate people into not only, necessarily the things that you want them to do, but into complete submissiveness to where they believe that this is what they want to do for you, right? And so that is what those teachings had really opened my eyes to, and that is what my family was really doing to me, was a lot of the stuff that I was seeing in those books by Sun Tzu, like The Art of War. Okay. And those tactics are still very useful, very, very real. Okay. And I do believe that if you are going to go down this road, you absolutely need to look into those kind of works, because they are super relevant to what we are talking about, what we are going through. It's interesting, but the human condition has changed very little over the centuries. And they wrote about this centuries ago. And so if you take the time to actually read those kind of works, you will see the stark similarities in people then, people now, and how we behave, and how easy it is for us to be manipulated, and be manipulated to the point that we don't know we're being manipulated. And in fact, it's our own idea, and we feel like it is our own idea, even though it is the ideas and the wants and the desires of the other person being implanted and wired into our brain, hardwired into our brains. And this is where the rewiring ends up happening within us. And this is why it ends up being so hard to break free. Even if you've got other people telling you, hey, you got all this weird shit going on, and I'm going to tell you right now that this is abusive and you need to get out. Okay, but the problem is that we don't necessarily see it that way, because we see sides of these people that other people don't get to see. And I get that. right? And this is the kind of stuff that we're fighting, and we're having this internal struggle within us. And this is what we need to get over and what we need to rewire in ourselves. Okay. And that's what this course really helps with. It helps with that rewiring. It helps with understanding and exposing and realizing, okay, what is going on. All right. So today I really want to talk about how do we stand back up after leaving a toxic situation? Okay. We get into these situations and our worlds are turned upside down and we feel stupid. We feel lost. Okay. We feel like there's no hope. The depression is very real, very painful. Okay. But we're here and we're living in it, and this is our life. And so now we got to figure out how to get out of that. And we don't understand that when we are in our situations, when we are in our abusive situations, and we're thinking about leaving and we're dreaming about all the cool things that we're going to do once we're free. We don't realize, we don't understand, okay, the level of depression and the level of self-loathing and anxiety that is about to hit us, and hit us hard when we leave. And it's not because we miss them. It's not because we want them back. It's because we have been wired to believe by our abuser, by ourselves, okay? We could have been telling ourselves this stuff long before the abuser came into our life, but it's coming from us too. We told ourselves, we were told that we were stupid, that we were not worthy. We would never achieve anything in our life. Who are you? What do you think you deserve? You know, what do you think you have coming to you? And these are the thoughts that are in our mind, that are in our brains as we go through. And we got to fight that. But how do we fight that on top of just not wanting to show up for it because we have been through so much bullshit and so much pain already? How do we pick ourselves back up and say, okay, I'm going to face this depression. I'm going to face this anxiety. I'm going to face this problem that I have of telling myself that I'm a worthless piece of shit. How am I going to face all of that when I'm just exhausted and I don't want to deal with it, anything anymore? I don't want to deal with it. I have been through so much pain and so much bullshit that I cannot put myself through anymore. So it's far easier to put on my clothes, right? Put on my smile and show up to work every day, collect what I'm owed, and go home and cry. I've been there. That was my life for so freaking long. And I don't want that for anybody else, because I know how it feels and I know how lonely it is inside of ourselves, especially after leaving abuse. But if you've got depression, period, how lonely it is, even when you've got people around you, because you do feel like that nobody is seeing you and nobody is understanding you and nobody is hearing you. I get it. And then you get the anxiety on top of that, because chances are you are not dealing with the responsibilities in your life. So then you have the anxiety on top of it. Where am I going to get the money to pay my bills? I'm worried about how my kids are going to turn out. I'm worried about the courts that I got to deal with. I'm worried about my job. I don't want to show up to my job, but I got to show up every day anyway. But now I'm all anxious and I don't want to be there. Now I'm doing a bad job at work, and we're just creating this anxiety fueled hypothetical world in our mind, but we're living through it through a depressed filter, mind you, every day. And we're putting the smile on and going through, and you're trying to tell me, we're trying to tell ourselves and convince ourselves that that is easier than doing the work on ourselves that we need to do and facing the pain and facing the past and facing the problems that we have. That's easier? I can tell you it's not. I can tell you that this what I'm going to show you is not going to be easy. It ain't going to be easy. I'm going to tell you that right now. Pick your hard. I'm sure you've heard it. Pick your hard. Either way is going to be hard, but one way you are suffering greatly, and another way you are thriving or beginning to and starting to see the light and the hope. That's what this is all about. And that's what my platform is about, you guys. And that is what I want to bring together. Nobody talks about this part of it. Nobody talks about this. But this is where I want to help. This is where I want to show you. This is what I have been through. This was my life every day. This is my life every day. And this is where I'm going to help everyday people get through their everyday. Their everyday. We just got out of the beta program of this course, and the reviews were astonishing. I am so grateful for my beta testers. You guys were wonderful. If you're out there watching today, I love it. I love you. It was beautiful. I thank you for all the wonderful words that you've given me and the encouragement. And I just want to say that I am so proud to have every single one of you in my life and consider you friends and colleagues as you help me put together my courses and let me know, what's working, what's not working. And I just wanted to put that out there for you guys. But anyway, let's get into this because I know we got stuff we got to do today, right? Okay, so let's get into this. All right. So the method that I have put together is called the strength method. Okay. And this is the method that it takes. This is what it takes to build a solid foundation, an unshakable foundation to go forward and go on your healing journey. If you do not have a solid foundation to go on your healing journey, and you don't have a plan, and you don't know what you're doing, you are not going to stick to it. And it will take you 2 decades like it took me. Okay. So the strength method is my proprietary method to building that solid foundation to go on this journey. This is everything that you need to know to go on the journey, stay the course, and when, because it will happen, when you veer off course or life just decides to life your ass up and down, you know how to put yourself back on course. Okay? Because all is not lost. You just got to get back onto course. It's okay. We give ourselves grace and we get back after it, right? We fall forward is what we do. Okay? And so the strength method is the way to do that. Okay? And so we're going to be going over standing back up. Okay? Where your true transformation is going to begin. Getting to that point within us where we say, I have had enough. I am disgusted with where I'm at. I am at rock bottom. I am at rock bottom. I cannot tolerate this for my life anymore. I cannot take this anymore. That is where the true transformation begins. When you say, I have had it. It's a beautiful day when you say that you've had it. Do you understand that? Because that's the day that everything changes for you. That's the day that you decide to finally live in your life. How cool! How cool is that? How cool is that for you? That should be a day of pure excitement. And I don't even know you, but I'm so excited for you. I want to get to know you. So please follow. Please like. Please join the Passion from Pain Inner Circle, the Survivors Inner Circle on Facebook. I want to get to know you, so please join those, okay? Because I want to hear about your journey. I want to hear what you're going through. And I want to give you advice. I want to advise you. I want to help you through. This is what I do. This is what I'm here for. This is what God has put me here for, and I want to hear it. This is what I stood back up for. And that's where I want to get you. That's where we're going to get you. And we're going to do that. We're going to do that together. How cool. Okay. The one thing I want you to understand, okay, is in order to stand back up, we've got to acknowledge and validate the emotions that we have. Okay. So the best way out is always through. It's Robert Frost. You know, another saying that I'm sure that you're aware of is, if you're going through hell, keep on going. Because why the hell would you stop in hell? You don't, okay? It's tough. It's hard. Those emotions hurt on a deep level. I know. But we need to acknowledge them, and we need to validate them as a real, true experience. Our emotions are the GPS navigation systems in our lives, okay? If we ignore them, if we silence them or suppress them, we're going to head in the wrong direction. Guarantee you. Embrace them, listen to them, learn from them, and you will never lose your way. Never. I promise you that. Even the emotions that hurt. Emotions are a powerful indicator of our true selves. So don't fear them. They are your compass, your alarm bells, your navigation systems that guide you and directs you through life. If you dismiss them, you are denying a part of who you are. Allow yourself to sit in your emotions. It's okay. No matter how uncomfortable they are, this moment isn't about pushing them away or pretending that they don't exist. This is about facing them with courage, head on. You have every right to feel the way that you feel. And those coming from toxic situations and abusive situations, we were often told that the way that we feel is crap. No, you have no right to feel that way. What are you talking about? That's not happening. You're just sensitive. You're oversensitive. Stop it. Quit being so sensitive. Anybody hear that? Does that sound familiar? Right? That was the conditioning. It's one of the red flags. Them telling you to not trust yourself. Trust them. Because they know better than you, right? No, wrong. We got to get back into the habit of trusting our emotions and validating our emotions and understanding the truth, which is you have every right to feel the way that you feel. Okay? So ask yourself, what is my heart trying to tell me when our emotions are coming up? What's it trying to say? Try to decode it. Try to speak its language. Okay? If the answers are not apparent in sitting or listening or meditating, even, okay, I have a hard time meditating. You guys will learn all about that about me. But if it's not apparent through meditation and listening and sitting in the emotions, use tools like art and music and journaling and writing. Create music if you're that type. Anything that taps into creativity taps into the emotion. Okay. So if you can't sit in it, you can't meditate with it, get into something creative. Creativity is where our heart speaks to us. Okay. We have to learn to understand our soul's language, and that is through our creative sides, our creative voices. And you're going to tell me, oh, but Amy, I'm not creative. Bullshit, you are. You haven't tapped into it yet. And you're creative on different levels, different avenues. Just because you can't create music or draw a picture, it does not mean that you're not creative. Everybody has a source of creativity within them. It's part of who they are, part of who every human is. Okay? And if you don't know what that is in you, then that is something that you need to learn to tap into. So absolutely write that down as something that you need to work on for yourself, because it is part of the picture. It is part of the puzzle. Okay. So back to this, by validating your emotions, you affirm your experience. Okay. And you begin to heal the emotional wounds caused by the toxicity. This isn't just about self-care, okay? It's self-empowerment. You own your emotions and you let them be the foundation for your strength and your recovery. If we don't feel the emotions, we're not going to get the lessons on the levels that we need to get them in order for those lessons to stick and for us to understand on a physiological level, okay, what they're telling us. And that's what we need to understand when our emotions are arising. They are telling us something. And if we don't understand it to the core of who we are, we're not going to listen. Okay, we're not going to do that. But that's how the patterns and the habits and all of that, that's how they're formed. And it's through patterns and habits that we get ourselves into either crappy abusive situations, or we get ourselves into phenomenal situations that lead us to growth and to prosperity. Okay. So let them be the foundation of your recovery. The emotions have to be the foundation of the recovery. They have to be. And if you've got any kind of healer or any kind of coach or teacher telling you different, they're feeding you bullshit and they're taking your money and running. I guarantee you that is exactly what they're doing. They are not going to help. Because if you don't address the emotion behind it, it is not going to change within you at the level that it needs to change the habits, to understand. Okay. Really understand the consequences of our actions in our patterns and in our habits. You can read books on changing habits and what it takes. There's a whole science behind it. But the key to it is getting to the emotions to begin with. You got to want it, right? Got to be motivated to it. That's all tied to an emotion, which is why we've got to connect with those emotions. We've got to validate them and we've got to sit with them. But being in a toxic situation and dealing with toxic abuse, okay, here we are. We don't trust it because we were taught not to. We were taught that other people knew better for us, right? Yeah, I know. I know. Strong emotions are an indicator that we need to address something. Okay? Something we need to address, something needs to change. We need to act on something in our lives. Emotions are an indicator that action needs to happen. Depression, anxiety, anger, fear, hate, love, passion, all of it, good or bad, indicate action needs to happen. Inaction or acting against our emotional compass disrupts our energies, our internal systems that can manifest in the physical symptoms that with time leads to, chronic conditions too. So if we don't address the emotions, and we don't address the strong emotions, and we don't act on those strong emotions, okay, our systems are still going to kind of be telling us and warning us and blah, blah, blah. But then also, stress is going to build. What comes with stress? We're finding out so many physical symptoms are a product of just stress. Headaches, gut issues, pain, sleeplessness, and all of that leads to a slew of other health conditions. So it can be a rolling snowball of physical sickness, all by not taking action on our emotions to begin with, right? By not dealing with our depression to begin with. By not seeing depression for what it is, and that is an indication that we are not happy in our lives and something needs to change. But it's not just sitting in that. It's not about just taking a pill and saying, okay, I'm going to pop a pill and be happy in my crappy situation. I did that for years, didn't help me, made it worse. Now understand, if you're taking medications, I never advocate for you to stop taking your medications. Okay, that is between you and your doctor. Don't ever say, oh, Amy says. No, I don't. But I am going to tell you that you're going to continue to take those medications. And if you continue to not act in your life, the medications are not going to be as effective in treating you and your depression. Popping some real expensive pills for them to do not a whole hell of a lot for you. And the simple answer is discovering what needs to change in your life. What are you not happy about? And taking action on it. That's the simplest form of it. Yeah, there's a million steps in there. A lot of stuff you got to do. That's why this course is here. That's why we learn. But when you're motivated enough and the emotion is strong enough in you and you want this and you've decided, I'm done living in depression, I'm done living in anxiety, I am done living in fear. When you are truly there, when you have had enough, I have had it, I can't do this anymore. When you are there, okay, that is when the magic can really happen. That is when you are motivated to make the changes and take the action and plan out the steps, work out that roadmap, realize what you want to do. Okay. Silencing, ignoring, drowning out, or numbing our emotions with cheap pleasures and escapes just teaches our nervous system that we don't need it. So that's the other thing that we could do. We could go to the cheap escapes: drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography. The cheap escapes, the things that feel good in the moment, but only make everything so much worse. On levels that make it even more difficult to come back from. You understand that? Helps in the moment. I get it. I get it. In that moment, it feels damn good. But when it's done and it's all wore off, what are you going to do then? What are you going to do? And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. Those are not the answer. They're not the solution. They're never going to fix any of it. The only thing that's going to fix everything is changing your situation, taking accountability, and deciding that I've had enough of living like this. And then taking the action and the appropriate steps to change all of it. Okay? And I understand that you're hurt. And I understand that they abused you. They took advantage of you. They manipulated you. They lied to you. They betrayed you. And they're probably still doing it. I get it. But I can tell you that drowning it out in cheap escapes is never the solution. It's not the answer. Not the answer. And it just makes it so much harder to pull ourselves out. Okay, the more we seek external emotional regulation, the more we train ourselves to ignore important nervous system functions. Fight or flight, for example, will become either frozen, okay, causing a perpetual state of anxiety or nervousness. I lived that. Oh, yeah. That was no freaking fun. Or it won't kick on at all when we need it to warn us of the dangers ahead. Why do you think that so many people who perpetuate violent crimes on others often try to get them intoxicated first? Drowning out their nervous system, their fight or flight, their warning sign, their ability to notice the red flags. That's what these cheap escapes do. They put you into the vulnerable position for you to be taken advantage of. And so treating ourselves after leaving an abusive situation or a toxic situation, treating the depression and anxiety with cheap escapes is only preparing us for the next abusive situation that is just waiting for us. If you want to end the cycle of abuse and toxicity in your life, we have to deal with the emotions, and we have to do it in a healthy way, in a way that serves us, moves us forward, keeps us in tune with our emotions, keeps us connected with our emotions, okay? And in a way that doesn't silence them. They're so important to us, so important for us, that we can't drown it out. We can't ignore it. We have to listen to it. We were given that compass for a reason. Use it. Use it. Use it. Okay? Use it. Don't ignore your emotions. I know they can suck and they hurt, but they're the key to all of this for you. Okay? Two of my favorite emotions. It's kind of weird, but two emotions that I like to talk about a lot. And it's because they can be the most powerful turning point emotions that we have. And that's anger and disgust. Okay. And so one way to put it is, anger is like gasoline. I think we can agree that's a pretty, pretty parallel comparison there. It's like gasoline, okay? And so if you spray it around and somebody lights a match, so you spray it all around the room, and then somebody comes in and lights a match. Oh my God, everybody's like, what the hell are you doing? Now you've got an inferno and everybody's panicking, right? But what happens if we take the gasoline and we put it inside an engine of a car? Well, now we can turn that car on and it can drive us forward, right? Inferno or forward. Depends on how you use it and how you control it and contain it. Important. Okay? Because when left unchecked, anger and disgust can immobilize us and wreak havoc on our lives. But if you learn to embrace it and use it as a powerful motivator for transformation, you become a powerhouse for change in your life. You see that? Wow. How freaking cool. You drink here real quick. Throat's getting a little dry. So, recognize that anger and disgust are natural responses to what doesn't sit well with us, okay? A lot like depression. It doesn't sit well with our souls. We are not happy. I'm mad. I'm pissed off. And it's okay to be that way. I know our abusers told us that, it's not, and we started to believe that for a while, and probably for a very long while. Till one day we got mad enough and disgusted enough, right? It's a signal shouting for change, shouting for the change. Instead of letting it fester inside of you, use it as the fuel. Let the intensity of this emotion drive you to reshape your life. There is no better source of fuel to get you to where you want to be than anger. Trust me. I'm a gal who did just that. I was pissed off for how I was treated my whole life, how I was taken advantage of, how I was lied to, how I was led to believe that I wasn't worth anything else, that I couldn't do anything else for myself. God damn, that is what they would tell me. I would never be able to do anything on my own, and yet I was the only person in the household working and bringing in an income. And I believed them. But that's how the manipulation works, right? That's how they get in your mind and they twist it all up. What doesn't make any sense to me now, what didn't make sense to perfectly rational people back then, made perfect sense to me. Okay, but then I got to the point where I could see what was happening and I was pissed. I was angry. And there was this anger that was brewing inside of me that could not be calmed, it could not be extinguished until I got to that point where I had had enough and I confronted everybody. And that is when the true narcissism started to come out. And that was the hardest part, because then they threw everything at me because they knew I was fighting back. When you start to fight back, you're enemy number one. I know. Okay. So start by setting clear boundaries when you're using your anger, okay? Identify what you're no longer going to tolerate from others and from yourself too. Okay, you got to set the boundary for yourself too. I am not going to allow these people to do this to me. I am not going to allow him to talk to me like that. I am not going to allow him to put his hands on me ever again. Set those boundaries for yourself. Or the other way, I am not going to get wrapped up in his games when he provokes me. I am not going to give him the scene he's looking for when he says the hurtful things. I'm not going to react. Set those boundaries for yourself. Keep to it. Keep your promise to yourself. Firm boundaries are your first defense against slipping back into harmful patterns, okay? Your first defense. Firm boundaries. And you'll hear me talk a lot about on podcasts at how, unless we're setting a boundary out of self-love, we're never going to uphold it. Self-love and self-preservation are typically the only two reasons that we are going to uphold a boundary, and it's got to be strong enough. Because it's one thing to say the words and set the boundary. We've heard a million times we got to set boundaries. And if it was that easy to just say, hey, Steve, you're no longer calling me after 9 o'clock. If it was that easy, we'd all do it. Next thing you know, Steve's calling at 11 o'clock at night. And what do? You pick up your phone. Hey, what's up, Steve? But then you're mad in your mind. Hey, I told Steve not to call me after 9 anymore. So there it is. Okay. So we've got to set it with ourselves as well. Okay. So you have to take control and assert yourself. This is your life and your story, and you need to be in charge. Your story needs to be in charge, okay? And it's time to make decisive choices. So visualize the future you truly desire and let the energy of the anger and disgust propel you towards it. Transform this emotion into action by identifying areas in your life that need change, then take deliberate steps to make those changes happen. It's all about the action again, right? There's a pattern here, guys, right? There's a pattern. Harnessing your disgust and anger isn't about dwelling in negativity, okay? Understand that. It ain't about going to these dark places. It ain't about staying in these dark places. But it's about utilizing every ounce of the anger to fuel your personal evolution. Okay? You have the power to turn this emotion into a force for development and renewal. So use it wisely, assertively, and without hesitation. Okay? But don't do stupid stuff with it. We're using this to claim our power back from an abuser. We're not using it to do stupid stuff that's gonna make the situation worse. No. No. Not at all. Okay? Not at all. So this was where my whole evolution started, was right here in these couple slides that we went over today. Okay? It was in me finally being angry enough and me finally being comfortable enough and confident enough in my anger, in my disgust for my situation in my life, that I could make those changes, that I could take things on myself, and that I could escape. And I did. And I did. And it was hurtful. It hurt them. And it hurt me. It was painful. Absolutely. And I was mad that I had to take it to that point. That I couldn't get them to understand what I needed. And I wasn't asking for a lot. But they were so wrapped up in their manipulation of me that they thought They could keep me under the control, under the spell of I would always need them. Because I'd always needed them at that point. They saved me. They rescued me from a neglectful mother, remember? Because of that, because I was an infant, a helpless infant, and they rescued me as a helpless infant, I was always going to be a helpless human who was going to need them. That is how they treated me. And yet, I was the only one that could go out and provide for them while they all sat at home and did nothing. And took away my access to my finances. Didn't have access to my own bank account. I worked 80 hours a week. And I couldn't pay my rent. And that was just the tip of the iceberg, right? But you can see how 25 years of a life like that. Okay, it started at 13. So 13 to 28. So 13 to 25, okay? That's how long I supported these grown adults in my life. And that's how long I was depressed. That's how long I took medication to make me happy in my crappy situation. Until I learned nothing was going to change until I stood up for myself, until the anger inside of me was enough, until I couldn't take it anymore, until I understood the emotions that I was feeling, until I understood and believed in myself that I could do things myself. I could live without them. I could live beyond the abuse. I didn't need it. That's what I needed to teach myself how to do. I did it. God damn, I did it. I did it. And it was absolutely the hardest thing that I ever did. But the proudest thing I've ever done. And now my kids get to see the strong me. They don't know the weak me. You know, there's a lot of people that only know me from the past, and you know how weak I was. And now I'm not that person anymore because I did the work on myself. I escaped the toxicity. I escaped my abusers. And here I am now, free from it all. I'm free from it all. And I did the work. I worked on the depression. I worked on the anxiety. I worked on my issues. And I continued to fall forward. Always fall forward. Never fall backwards, right? That's what I did. And it was difficult and it was hard. And there were times that I wanted to give up. And there were periods of times that I did give up for a little while, you know, but I always got back on course. Always. You know, and one more thing that I want you to understand, kind of what I want to leave you with here before we go, is I want you to understand something, okay? And especially as you go through this and you're researching and you're looking at healing journeys, you're looking at different education platforms or healers, I want you to understand one thing really, and that is there is no such thing as being 100% healed. Ever. It's not a thing, okay? And so I want you to be aware of that. If somebody is trying to sell you that nonsense, okay, that they can cure you, that they can, you know, get you past all of it 100% healed and nothing's ever going to bother you again, they're feeding you bullshit and they're taking your money and they're running to the bank laughing at you. I promise you. They're manipulating you and they're taking advantage of your situation. Okay? Also, anybody that tells you that you can heal without addressing the negativity that happened in your life and the toxicity or the abuse, okay, it is not possible. Not possible. You have to be able to process those emotions. You have to understand those, because it is always going to come back. That's why. The depression always comes back. The anxiety always comes back. The fear always comes back. Okay, but the difference between healing ourselves, okay, and not, is the ability to know when it's coming, prepare for it, and have the ability to pull ourselves back, bring ourselves back, okay, to who we are. To pull ourselves out of the depression. I can't tell you how many times the depression has come back on me. So many times. But I know how to put it in check. And I know and I understand that when the depression is coming back, there is something that I need to evaluate in my life. What am I doing right now? Am I doing the right thing? There's something I'm not happy about, so I need to evaluate it, okay? That's what the depression is telling us. Remember that. So that's why it's never going to go away. And so if you've got somebody who is telling you that they can cure it and they can make it go away, they're feeding you bullshit. They're not helping you. They don't intend to help you. You're paying them for them to tell you what you want to hear. And I'm not going to do that, okay? I'm not ever going to just tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And I know sometimes it's going to be hard. And I know sometimes it's going to hurt. But these are the truths that we need. This is what we need. And that's what we need to understand. We need to understand that we need these truths in our lives. And these truths are what are going to set us free. Okay? Action. Acting on our emotions. Understanding what they're telling us. So important. So important. And yet it's one of the first things that we give up to an abuser. It's one of the first things they take away from us. Why? Because when they take that away, they know they can start taking away the confidence that's in you. If you had it to begin with. A lot of times abusers are just going to flat out target somebody who has zero confidence in themselves because it's less work for them. They don't need to chisel away at you as hard. It's the truth. And it's sad that these kind of people exist, but they do. Okay, but this is why we educate ourselves on it, so we know and we understand and we can grow and we can get past it. I want to thank you guys so much for showing up today, watching, learning. I had a blast presenting today and sharing, and I'm going to make these a lot more regular. If you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in taking my course, Finding Strength After Toxicity, please get a hold of me. My website is passionfrompain.com. Okay. Reach out to me on Facebook, message me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on all of them. Reach out. It's always the first step. If you're at that point that you are disgusted with where your life is, you're angry and you're ready, you just don't know where to go and you need that roadmap, I have the roadmap. I can show you where to go. Okay? And then I can be your ally as you go down the course. Okay? I love it. And I love you guys. And you all have a beautiful evening. And I will see you next Friday. Same time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this is Amy Pease, founder of Passion from Pain. And we are talking Finding Strength After Toxicity. Put in the description and in the comments anything that you've got to say on the matter and the subject. And then don't forget to join my new group, the Passion from Pain Survivors Inner Circle. That's where we all come together and we support each other on our journeys of rediscovering who we are and lifting ourselves up after abuse. Love you guys. Have a great night. And I'll see you next week. Bye.